Welcome to another edition of the FarmCast. I'm Mike Wemhoff, the Vice President of Precision Ag. I got Troy Randall here with me, a Precision Ag Manager. Certainly, 21st century equipment, we want to get good feedback from our customers and we listen to that feedback and try to respond to that. And much the same with our FarmCast. We want to take a look at the comments that are submitted. So thank you if you've submitted a comment. If you haven't before, go to the bottom, like and subscribe and comment, and we're happy to take those as suggestions for further episodes or just general questions. But we had a good list of compiled questions that we had from previous episodes, so we thought we'd take this opportunity to answer a few of those. So between Troy and I, we'll just kind of answer a few of those. Maybe to start with, there's a few questions related to the new S7 combine that's coming out in 2025, and we've done some previous episodes around that. The first question, will you be able to run a 16-row folding head on a new S7 900?
Unfortunately not. So one of the limitations of the 16-row folding corn head 30-inch spacing is on X9 only still. So that's one limitation. We can do the 12-row 30-inch spacing folding corn head on the S7s and even the older S700s too, but no, that big 16-row 30-inch spacing corn head is quite the beast. So it takes the bigger size of the X9, the bigger feeder house, all the added capacity of that machine to fully make sure it's safely on that feeder house on that machine. So not yet, maybe down the road, but yeah, as of right now, still X9 only on that 16-row folding corn head. And
we'll just finish out the combine here. Will the automatic combine adjustments work with Milo?
Unfortunately not. So that's one crop that's not in there. So the list of crops we have in there is things like corn, wheat, soybeans, a few others too, barley. But yeah, Milo is unfortunately a crop that's not on the list yet too. But the nice thing is we can actually still, if you do have those combine advisor cameras, those harvest settings automation cameras on the clean grain elevator, you can still use those in kind of a manual sense to just view that crop coming in there, make changes manually too. Because I actually have quite a few guys, if they're not running the full-blown combine advisor on the older machines, that's kind of what they do too. They like having that camera just to see no matter what crop they're doing. Dry beans is a big one too, so they just use that visualization to make changes, have a better idea what's going in the grain tank. So they kind of have their own version of a combine advisor based off their previous experience on those crops that are not approved yet for harvest automation.
And then the last question we had on the S7 combine, when are they going to make them fully automated?
2030. So that's Deere's. If you haven't heard that before, that's pretty much Deere's. They're going to have a fully autonomous solution for every production step by 2030. So you can hopefully put that on your calendar, and then we'll have a fully autonomous combine by then. So, but as you can see, especially these S7 machines, we're definitely taking leaps and bounds toward autonomy with predictive ground speed automation, harvest settings automation, all the different automation features we have in there too. And then even something they're working on next is going to be kind of what they call auto mode. So it pretty much takes that exact same camera, those forward-facing cameras, puts it out on the auger of the combine, and pretty much allows almost automatic machine sync pretty much. So pretty much like something we've had on the choppers for years, the active fill. We're pretty much taking that same technology, putting the combines, and allow the combine to automate filling the grain cart. So one less thing to worry about. So just makes the machine that much more autonomous. So
the other thing I'll add to that is it's a fully autonomous cropping system for corn and soybeans, is what Deere has said at this point. So we'll kind of see how, back to one of the previous questions about Milo, kind of see how other crops maybe come into that. Some of the automation steps might be part of that and work on every crop, and other steps maybe not. They might be crop specific. So just depends.
So moving on to our test farm here, one question we have is, what do you do with the yields from these crops? Are they sold just as any other crop would be to fund more testing?
So I've really approached this to our team at 21st Century to say, let's treat this exactly like a farm, like we would expect our customers to do. We're looking at profit and loss, trying to figure out what is, our optimal input costs to maximize our revenue at the end of the day. We do sell the crop to get revenue just like any of our other customers would, and that goes to our input costs. Obviously we have the same input costs that any of our customers do. Our equipment still costs us time on those hours to run, along with all of our other input costs, working with our agronomist, all those things. So obviously we got to pay those and hopefully get some revenue back on the back side of it to fund some further research and development. But I will also say that at the farm, if we break even and we're able to prove out a technology or a method, a different operation, that's a win for us too, that we can pass along to you all as customers. So we're not out here to make a huge profit by any means. Actually, really not out here to make profit at all. We want to be able to test our equipment. We want to take risks that our customers wouldn't be able to do, because we know, we can come out here with a See and Spray machine, and especially as we were kind of questioning, does that really work? And can we just do See and Spray and not a broadcast application? We can take that risk. And if we have weeds taller than corn,
that's on us.
That's on us, right? But luckily we haven't seen that, so that's a good thing. All the technologies have worked, but we can take that risk rather than asking our customers to take that risk. So that's our main reason for the test farm, to be able to try things out, do some research and development, and hopefully we can make some money just like you all want to. But all of that, yes, will go back into the farm, and we treat it just like your farm.
If we break even, we're doing good. So.
Right, exactly. Maybe to turn to another new technology of ExactShot. Again, we highlighted that at our Expo in Greeley last year, and a little plug, our Expo this year will be February 26th and 27th in Greeley again, so please mark that on your calendar and join us. But
a good time.
Yes, so we'll talk more about ExactShot there and have capabilities to even know how it worked in our fields, right? Even the one right behind us, and then also for some of our customers too. But so the ExactShot questions, doesn't that burn the seed and damper the grow cycle?
Nope, because we're still pretty much putting on our target rate. So if we have a target rate, think of it as no different than continuous. If we're putting down 5 gallon an acre, typically that's our typical inflow rate, it's still going to put down 5 gallon acre in those bands. We're just only putting it in bands around the seed. So we're pretty much only putting that 5 gallon acre, half of the place, or even a third of the place, depending what our population is, what we have our shot size set to. So so we can up the rate and go up to like 6 or 7. We've I think Deere's, we've even kind of tried some stuff out in the field here with a little bit higher rates to see if there's any differences, and you can even up your rate too. So you can but yeah, you definitely don't want to be putting all the fertilizer would be across that entire span into a band right above the seed. Then you're probably going to burn it. So we're pretty much just taking out, or just putting it on top of the seed versus a continuous band. So
taking out that middle
exactly portion. Yep. So
the second question we had around that is, I see $1 reason to save on fertilizer usage, but doesn't the constant stream encourage healthier root growth and create a larger platform to support a taller, heavier plant?
So in some cases, that's absolutely right. So you definitely, depending on the crop, depending on your population, depending on your conditions, having that constant stream is most likely going to have some beneficial effects there too. But where this comes into play, can you almost get that same effect with also cutting your fertilizer back? So the big thing with ExactShot, this is going to be, unfortunately, one thing, you're not going to see any yield gain from it per se, but can we almost maintain that same yield and then and drastically reduce our fertilizer usage at the same time and still maintain almost that same yield? Or what we've seen in a lot of cases is a kind of a sweet spot where you might lose just a few bushels an acre, but that huge gain in fertilizer savings, is that enough to justify that loss and then some of that yield loss? So it's just kind of a numbers game, depending how you look at it. It's you have to kind of see if it's right for your operation, but that's why it's kind of exciting out here in our neck of the woods. We have very low dryland rates, so we can really spread that band out across the seed quite a bit. So that's where we can really see a lot of savings if we really have that low population, seeds that are spaced very far apart. So we're only putting that right on the seed versus, we're not putting on that, extra foot or so, or 9-10 inches of just empty space. So
and a plug for what we've done out here on our test farm is, we did some strips initially here, some strip trials, and it's a good entry point to see how that's going to work for our farm. Can do the same thing for your farm, and just really see how you can improve that year over year, and gives you an opportunity to look at the data and make data-driven decisions.
We actually had a really good demo out in my neck of the woods, but we pretty much did half conventional planter, half continuous, and then half with the ExactShot on a big dryland field too. So the continuous planter, it probably ran through almost maybe, it was just shy of 2,000 gallons. It was maybe like 1,500 gallons of fertilizer. An ExactShot planter, we only use like not even 400 gallons. So it's going to be curious to see if there's any yield. Hopefully we won't see any yield difference, because we're not going to, but as long as there's not a drastic yield decrease in those areas, we can kind of prove right there that quite a large reduction in fertilizer. So
Sure.
was that worth the cost for it? So
Yep.
the next question we have around here is revolving around autonomy. So when the tractor starts to, and this is of course referring to an autonomous tractor, I would imagine. So when the tractor starts to get stuck in the mud, what does it do? Just keep spinning and spinning and spinning until it buries down to the door handles, or does it stop and wait for someone to come rescue it?
It's a good question, and as we look at more and more autonomous pieces of equipment coming, John Deere has a goal to have a fully autonomous cropping system for corn and soybeans by 2030. We need to really understand how that looks. But directly to the question, if you've seen the autonomous tractor for tillage that we have today, there's a set of cameras on top of the weight stack up front, and sets of cameras all the way around the cab, looking forward and backwards and to the side, so it kind of knows what it's doing. It's looking for obstacles, but it also makes sure that it's moving, right? So anything that autonomous piece of equipment deems as not, i.e. not the wheels are spinning but we're not moving, it will shut down. You'll get a notification on the Operations Center app that piece of equipment's not doing what we expect it to do. It would need a human to go tend to that. Like I said, directly related to that question, it will stop. But that's what we would want it to do. It's just looking for anything out of the ordinary, anything in front of it, behind it, even looking at the implement behind it. Yep. To make sure that it set down, and anything that we would see with our eyes looking behind us in the cab as well. Yep,
and of course the nice thing is, since it's a green on green solution, that autonomy piece is already looking at all the different machine metrics too. So it's looking at the engine information, the transmission information. A big metric we always had from way back in the day was slip. We always want a little bit of slip on our tractor. So if this thing all of a sudden starts slipping like crazy, if our wheel speed goes up and our GPS speed starts to go down, it knows we are slipping, so it might slow down, it might change something too. So if it sees something abnormal, it's either going to change something, and of course it'll have true set too. So it's fully taking full control of that implement too, so it knows where the implement is. So if it can almost maybe, if it sees too much slip, just raise up a hair and keep going, or if it has to come to a complete stop, and then let the owner know. Sure. What's going on to intervene, it'll do that too. So yeah, and I like the intermediate steps that it would take. Yep. Like you said, it might try and lift up the implement a little bit. Yep. See if that improves it, or change engine speed, whatever it needs to do. It'll do those faster than maybe we would as a human in the cab. It's going to try it and see immediate results of either positive or negative, and make the next course of action even faster. So maybe in a perfect world they'll get stuck less because it's paying better attention than the person in there running it until they have it buried up to the door handles. Right. Yeah. So exactly. Maybe in a perfect world we'll see. So yep. Moving on to another technology is AutoTrack turn automation. You may hear ATTA. That is the acronym for that. And we now have the capability to do turn automation on anything but a sprayer. But that's coming soon. So hopefully by next spring. So they're testing it now. But with some questions we had around AutoTrack turn automation, can you do it on a 2630? Well, yes, pretty much. That's kind of a loaded question, because I might kind of date myself here too, but even before I was in this position. So Deere actually had something called iTech Pro, and that's actually from way back in the 2600 days when it first came out. I think it came out. I was going to go look and see. I think it came out in maybe iTech Pro came out in 2010, 2011, so don't quote me on that, but around that time frame. So that was actually Deere's first iteration of that, and you can even go back and see YouTube videos of it. Pretty much was the foundation of ATTA. But the thing with iTech Pro, it was cool, but man, it was a bear to set up. You had to kind of know the ins and outs, and it was very, it was not very easy to set up. I'll say that, because even I'm pretty fluent at it too, and it usually takes a lot of fine tuning and stuff like that too. Versus ATTA is extremely user friendly, and over the years it's got even more and more user friendly. You can pretty much don't have to have like the implement set up. You can have just speed control, you can have just turn control, or you can have the full blown suite too. So a lot of flexibility. So is it technically available for 2630? Yes, but I'd rather it works a lot better on the Gen 4 G5 platforms with all the updates they've had over the years. So yep. And those platforms are synonymous really between each other. Yes, Gen so 4, Gen 5, G5. So the next question on AutoTrack turn automation is this available for the 5075E? Unfortunately not. So pretty much only available on 6Rs and above is kind of what we have for compatibility right now, just because an E doesn't even really have integrated auto track right now. So hopefully they come out with, hopefully it's something they work on towards the future, is maybe kind of a universal option for our auto track universals, things like that. So, but I guess there's always, as of right now, it's only for kind of our larger tractors. So, but hey, seem to come out with stuff for that smaller stuff too, and that's kind of getting more and more high tech too. So I wouldn't just hold your breath maybe. So
does turn automation work on circle tracks?
Unfortunately not yet, but this has been a big feedback, especially in our areas, because we got a lot of circles. So we got a lot of guys that do hay in circles, a lot of guys that actually starting to do row crop in circles, they do sugar beets in circles, corn in circles. So as of right now, no, but this is a big feedback we've been giving back to Deere. So hopefully it's something that's on our radar, and they're kind of working on proactively right now, trying to find the best way to do it too. But there is kind of a workaround. Me and some other guys on the team kind of stumbled upon this year especially. So it does technically work with AutoPath. In circles. So I've preached quite a bit about AutoPath and the differences between AutoPath from rows and AutoPath from boundaries. So AutoPath from rows, it actually does work if you get all set up, because we actually had some guys kind of mess around with it, try it out, and actually does work pretty dang slick if you do. But the big thing with that is you have to have that source operation defined. So that might be kind of difficult depending on what crop. If it's corn, it might be doable, but like things like hay, we'd have to get kind of crafty. And so, but is it doable right now? Not officially, but it kind of works, but it's definitely something on the radar, and hopefully, because it's been a big request we've had here over the years, especially because we have a lot of guys that do hay in circles, so it's a lot of repetitive passes throughout the field, and just having that automation on the end would make things a lot easier, especially when you got a lot of machines out there too. So this one, especially our big, if the goal is autonomy, that's one thing we need to work on towards autonomy, and that's one big thing we have. So that's why it's on the radar. So, and
while we're on shapes, the last question we have on turn automation is, how do you turn on triangle fields? Not all are square.
So they came out with a different turn pattern a couple of years ago too, and I'm not most fluent in it, but we got some other guys on the team that have messed around with it and got some guys set up on it. But there is actually a figure 8 turn pattern, so that's exactly what it works for. So if you're coming up to your headline at an angle, and that, because in most cases you have U-turn and that's about it. So the figure 8 will actually help to keep that machine pretty much in that boundary. So it'll kind of go up and turn back around, and then go the next pass over, depending which way you're going. So that is an option for when you have this triangle fields where you absolutely do not want to go outside that exterior boundary. So yep, that's an option. New option we've had that just came out last year, maybe 2 years ago too, but it is a different turn pattern option within ATTA we can utilize. So, well,
thanks, Troy, and we covered a lot of ground here, and there's more questions to cover. We'll get to those in a further episode again. If you have comments or questions, please send those to us. We love to see them and know how we can get better at 21st Century Equipment, what feedback we can give back to Deere to make things better. And they're a wonderful equipment manufacturer to work with. We're blessed in that sense, and we have a very close relationship with them, so we can always provide that feedback back to them. But thank you again for watching the FarmCast presented by 21st Century Equipment, and we'll see you on the next episode.